Hi, welcome. In this video, this is part three of responding to the talking points by way of Robert Cabral, who identifies as a balanced dog trainer. I titled the video, The Truth About the Lies in Dog Training. Again, responding by way of what I call talking about the big lie in dog training is in that which balanced dog trainers and force-free dog trainers both promote by way of approaching a relationship problem between dogs and owners as a learning-based exercise. And again, I talk about how that sets in motion a counterfeit picture for many within the framework of superficial response, which leads to so many dogs being blamed as a result in terms of a relationship problem still ongoing, even after receiving your certificate, even after dogs looking fantastic in the training environment, doing a great sit down, come and stay, only to discover that things haven't actually changed. You understand this goes right to the heart of the issue in the dog training world. But meanwhile, okay, you have those who identify as balanced dog trainers out there playing both sides of the fence, okay, in terms of trying to pretend that they're offering something different, even while they're actually in agreement with this idea as to what a process represents. So I'm going to continue to play some of this video. Again, I want to make it clear, under fair usage, considering the recent kind of pattern here with trainers, balanced dog trainers, who are engaging in censorship by way of copyright strikes to try to shut down the conversation. Again, my point being is, well, if these trainers are confident, okay, in what they're saying, if there aren't problems, right? If they're confident, they should have no problem with someone like myself or others, actually responding based on, on specific information. That's what I'm putting forward. It's not about, cheap shots here. It's about specific information, talking about the real problem. Because understand, these are public videos. These trainers are putting out information. They're selling a product by way of a process. This is like no other. This is like any other product, right? But if the product is inherently problematic, people need to know, because what's happening here, so many dogs are getting blamed, and because this is at such a level now, because understand both these groups are engaging in this very problematic idea of what training is, balanced and force-free. When you get to this level, because that's what's happening, where so many dogs are getting blamed, it seems to be normal. Okay, it's not normal. This has been going on since the beginning, since going back through behavioralism with Pavlov and Skinner. I show that. And so look at all the inherent problems in the dog training world. And this is, again, why do you think this video is out by Cabral, talking about lies in dog training? So obviously there's problems here, just that I'm offering a perspective, okay, as to what the real problem is and just how big it is. So again, I'm going to continue to play some of this video and respond to it.
Is the biggest form of abuse you'll see. But when people tell you that giving your dog a correction is abuse, those people are liars.
So right here, saying liars, right? Abuse, correction, right? But understand, I keep talking about the trap that these balanced dog trainers are in. They've bought into this idea, and so it does not reconcile the role of influence properly. Okay, I talk about the role of influence by way of talk about this issue about being dialed into the relationship, a dog's state of mind, as control is manifesting through a dog by way of a express state. See, that's the difference. You don't hear these trainers talk that way. Okay, they use that word behavior in a very superficial way, okay, within the framework of response, right? To change a behavior. What does that mean? It's not about a response. They're not dialed into the relationship the way I talk about. It's therefore, influence itself isn't defined properly. So I talk about as controls manifesting, right, to intercept, right? This word, talk about the word correction. But even when balanced dog trainers use that word, they're not dialed in that way. So when they correct the dog, They're doing it, usually delayed, okay, in a reactionary posture. And so it doesn't even align properly. And this is where you get into problems with even dogs redirecting on, say, trainers or dog owners. So being dialed in is really important. So, but the role of influence has to be defined. It's not. So this is where you get this thing about then changing, right? Redirecting the focus of a dog, assuming that redirection, that change of focus, represents perceptions have changed the right way or in certain moments. And this is where the narrative being put up by certain trainers, even say Larry Crone, rewarding bad behavior to create good behavior. Go watch the video on that. This is coming out of the balanced dog training community. But I talk about that, it'd be no different than, again, going back to the parenting example, selfish child mouthing off at the parent, and suddenly you pull a chocolate bar out of your back pocket and kind of wave it to the side, and the child's, eyes look at the chocolate bar. That's the rewarding, bad behavior, create good behavior. That's the whole thing about shifting focus. But ask yourself the question, as a selfish child's mouthing off, you pull a chocolate bar out and the focus shifts, and there's, the moment of mouthing off goes away momentarily. Do you package that up as though the relationships like that moment, something you can work off of? That represents some sort of a foundational relationship moment of change? It's ridiculous. Okay, but that's where we're at. This is where all the confusion comes from this idea that trains a learning-based exercise. A failure to even define the role of influence with what it's doing to change the perceptions of a dog who's expressing an expressed state. See, that's the difference. So no different than as a selfish child becomes more and more selfish, right? Behavior issues escalate, right? The thinking process, right? The attitude of expressed state. See, this is the language you don't hear from any of these trainers because they're not dialed in that way to the relationship. It's all totally superficial. It's totally based. Even that word behavior used within these two groups is totally misapplied because this is the lie that people have bought into.
And they couldn't be further from the truth. But they're here.
No, well, balanced dog trainers and force free couldn't be further from the truth. Okay, that's the right way as to what a process represents.
Because they have an agenda. They want you to buy their books. They want you to buy their courses. They want you to join their organization.
See, it's no different. It's total hypocrisy, right? Because that's no different than what balanced dog trainers are doing. Selling their courses, right? Buying into their, into their stuff, right? I mean, the reason these videos are up in the first place is to, make money. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything, everyone's got to survive. Everyone needs to, needs to work and find, but when you get into this issue about a bad product, now we have a problem. Okay, understand that this is what I talk about. This is like me flipping over the cereal box saying this is what's inside the cereal box.
And support their methodologies. And if they can get rid of a whole other side.
See, interesting. Now, stop right there. Side, right? That word, side, other side. What side mean? Well, it's like the same coin. Learning, right? Two different sides, but it's the same coin. Think about that word, how that word's used, side. So it's like one side's balanced and one side's force-free, but it's the same coin. You just flip the coin up in the air. Where does it come down? Heads or tails? But you're still going to have, potential for a bad outcome, okay, is very real because I talk about this type of spectrum, right? So going from defining what a process is, following the path of a intervention, reconcile those two core ingredients. I talk about influence and control by way of a intentional interaction-based method approach. And then you start to go down that line. Further you go away from it through balanced. That door's wide open. Okay, right? Because those two core ingredients can't be reconciled that way. Through this idea about learning, through motivating dogs that way. It doesn't happen that way. It can't. And then you go down further towards force-free. That door keeps opening wider and wider and wider. But the problem is that door's already open. You have to understand that.
Of dog trainers, then they can rule the whole thing. And here's the thing. You never want one side to rule. I don't want everyone to train dogs.
See, and this is that, see, again, the same language. One side the rule, like there's more than one way to train a dog. See, that's a total lie. It's based on this ideology. It's based on appearances. That statement doesn't even make sense. It's been around since the beginning. There's more than one way to train a dog. Well, what's that? Ask yourself the question, what's that statement based on? Appearances. Response. See, this whole thing, when you start to really frame this up as like the truth is subjective, the truth isn't subjective. The fact is, training itself is not a learning-based exercise. So the whole thing's based on a lie. The truth is that training is not a learning-based exercise. It's an intervention. That just makes sense. Okay, just think about this. So talking about, see, this whole thing of the wordplay here, if you really apply critical thinking, even the word language that Cabral uses alludes to what I'm saying.
It's like, I train dogs. I don't want every single person to do exactly as I do.
See, more than one way, more than one way, more than one way.
I enjoy people training their dogs in other ways. Oscar Moore is one of my very...
See, just this whole thing. So I'm going to conclude it here because this is a really good place to stop, okay? I mean, but my point is, for anyone watching, my videos and putting these pieces together, is my encouragement is apply critical thinking here. The dog training world is in the state that it's in for a reason. Okay, it's all coming apart for a reason. Why do you think these balanced dog trainers are putting out all these videos? Because they're under pressure. Because this ideology, right, is starting to unravel because there's nothing to confront it. So it's going to reach its ultimate fulfillment, okay, through force free. And that is like the perfect storm with society's permissive attitudes. But all those things are all kind of, twisted up together. And you start to see things. And balanced dog trainers, so the balanced dog trainers, they're in a catch-22 situation. But the bottom line here is that, whether it's force-free or balanced, training is not a learning-based exercise. Understand that. And these are all inherent to the problems I talk about. Bad outcomes, blame shifting on the dogs, everything else you see in the dog training world, it's all connected. So again, I encourage you, check out my information I put out. It's very specific. I talk about not just the problem, but the solution by way of a intentional interaction-based method. Thanks for watching.